A 3-minute opening statement.
First of all, I want to thank the Appeal Democrat, the Chamber of Commerce, and KUBA for hosting us tonight. As you said, my name is Jennifer Dupré. I'm a candidate for District Attorney. One thing I want to address right off the bat is the questionnaire that many of you received from the Foundation for Individual Responsibility. A question that I've been getting repeatedly is why I didn't answer some of the questions, and I just want to address that right up front. And quite simply, it's because ethically I felt that it wasn't proper to do so. The District Attorney's Office is supposed to be impartial, and the Supreme Court has said even the appearance of anything less than full impartiality is wrong. So if I could imagine any scenario in which one of the issues I was asked about or an issue related to it could possibly come before the District Attorney's Office, I did not feel that it was proper for me to answer those questions. So quite simply, that is why I didn't. So that being said, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been an attorney for 17 years, a prosecutor for 10. I spent just about 6 years in the Yuba County District Attorney's Office. I'm finishing up my 4th year in the Butte County District Attorney's Office. I have lived in South Yuba City for just about 10 years, so I'm a longtime Sutter County resident. And I'm running for District Attorney because, quite frankly, I don't want to be protecting other people's communities anymore. I want to protect my own community, where I live with my husband, my daughter, my father. I want them, my neighbors, my friends, and my entire community to remain safe. I have the experience, the integrity, and the ethics, as well as the necessary training to turn the District Attorney's Office in Sutter County around and really make it one of the top-notch DA's offices in the state. And so I'm going to ask for your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Amanda Hopper. Amanda Hopper, you have up to 3 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you, appreciate it. And again, I too want to echo Jen's thanks for all of you for being here, for the Chamber, and for the Appeal for hosting this. I appreciate that the people who came out here tonight want to know more about us, and they want to educate themselves for the vote on November 4th. And I think that's one of the great things, probably the greatest thing about our country, is that we get to choose who we vote for, who our leaders are, and we get to have a voice. And so I think it's important that we all exercise that voice and that we do so with the most information that we can. A little bit about myself. I am a lifelong Sutter County resident. I started off my legal career in the Sutter County District Attorney's Office. I was there for 7.5 years. While I was there, I was given a lot of opportunities, including training and supervising other attorneys. I was also given the opportunity to handle all types of crimes, severity of crimes, and to be able to give back to the place that I've always called home. And one of the things that I think is vital in a district attorney's office is integrity. And integrity requires transparency. Transparency means that you talk. It means you communicate with your justice partners, with your victims, with your witnesses, and with everyone involved in the criminal justice system. Transparency also means that simply transparency. It means that the people who you work with, the people that you are asking for support, the people that you are asking for their vote, know who you are, know what you believe in, and know what you stand for, because that's the best way to make an informed decision, and that's what the basis of our democratic system is. So I believe in transparency, and I believe that integrity requires it. I also believe that one of the things Sutter County truly needs is greater protection for our community through competent, passionate, and well-informed prosecution. We have people in the Sutter County District Attorney's Office who want to do a good job. We need leadership that will allow them to maximize their potential. Leadership that requires communication, preparation, and ethics. It's only when we do that that we're going to have good sentences and good results, and that's going to lead to better community safety. I also am grateful and proud to be endorsed by the Sutter Deputy Sheriff's Association, the Yuba City Police Officers Association, and the Yuba Sutter Farm Bureau. So again, I too am grateful for the opportunity to be here, and look forward to November 4th and ask for your support and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you both. Let's get into the first question. Amanda, we'll throw this one to you first. Have either of you personally tried a murder case as a lead prosecutor? If not, why should the citizens of our county trust you to lead the office which will prosecute such heinous crimes within our community?
I have not tried a murder trial as a lead prosecutor or as a second chair. I have worked on homicide and murder trials, but not actually tried them. I have tried cases with incredibly complex issues. One of the cases that I did take to trial was an attempted murder case. And attempted murder, for those of you who are somewhat familiar with the criminal justice system, is very difficult to prove at times because it requires the exact same elements as murder without actually having someone be killed. So it's an incredibly complex situation. I tried that case and received premeditation and deliberation. Also, I will say that my opponent, Jen, is very fortunate that she started off her criminal career in a Yuba County District Attorney's office where they pair up the junior attorneys with their most senior and experienced deputies, and she was fortunate to have that experience early in her career. I think it's a fantastic policy that I'd love Sutter County to implement.
Jennifer?
As Ms. Hopper said, I did have the opportunity when I was in Yuba County to serve as second chair on a 6-victim DUI homicide. I was fortunate enough to handle the key cross-examination or direct examination of the California Highway Patrol expert who actually interviewed the defendant, and we knew that that was going to be the key issue on appeal, and in fact it was, and it was upheld. In Butte County, I have also been the sole prosecutor on at least 3 homicide cases, including taking a domestic violence homicide case through a 3-day preliminary examination. Ultimately, that defendant decided to plead. So I do have the experience necessary to handle a homicide case. I have taken a homicide case to trial as second chair, and so I do know the complexities and the issues that come up, especially handling the other homicide cases on my own, so I will be able to guide the other prosecutors in the Sutter County District Attorney's Office.
Amanda, any further comment?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, the first question I have for this evening is for Jennifer, and this question is from the audience. Jana McClung is the acting district attorney due to the resignation of Carl Adams. Should she continue working on the district attorney staff? Who determines the position of the assistant district attorney?
My understanding from speaking with several members of the Board of Supervisors as well as reading the employment guidelines is even the assistant district attorney's position is a civil service position. As such, essentially Ms. McClung will remain in that position absent some action by the Board of Supervisors, such as doing what is called Y rating her, which would then require the approval of another position at the same pay with that title. So according to the civil service rules, Ms. McClung will remain in that position regardless of who is elected unless she decides to leave on her own.
Okay, Amanda?
The only thing I would add is that, like any other employee, the only consequences that Ms. McClung would face are those that anyone would face if they choose to act in a way that's improper, and that would be something that would have to happen in the future. So no, she's in that position.
Jen, anything to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Bob?
There was some recent press about the Sutter County District Attorney's Office failing to file domestic violence charges against a Sutter County Sheriff's deputy who got into a dispute with his wife when the wife found out he was having an affair with a member of the Sutter County District Attorney's Office. How would you have handled this issue differently? Would you punish the District Attorney Office employee who was having the affair? Why or why not? And if you would, how would you do it?
I would have handled it differently. I think anytime that there is the appearance of bias or impropriety, the entire office suffers, and then the justice system suffers. That case should have been sent to the Attorney General's office to be handled. Whether or not the decision to handle the case in the way it was handled is appropriate, I think should have never even been given to our DA's office because of the involvement of an employee in the relationship and personally in the case. As far as any disciplinary action, the behavior would have to relate to the requirements, regulations, and rules for their job. But should anyone act in any way that's unethical, that is immoral, or that it violates the regulations, they must be held accountable.
Jennifer?
That case should never, ever have gone to the district attorney's office. It should have been sent directly to the Attorney General's office for their evaluation. The mere fact that an employee of the district attorney's office was involved even tangentially does raise, at a minimum, the appearance of less than full impartiality, let alone bias. And that is not acceptable. That is not how we are going to rebuild public trust in our Sutter County District Attorney's office. That office must be above reproach, and even considering reviewing a case such as that was receiving so much press and that involved someone from the district attorney's office should never have happened. It absolutely should have gone just straight to the Attorney General's office.
Any further comment, Amanda?
No.
Okay, this question is for Jennifer. The Sutter County District Attorney's Office has been described by some as a toxic work environment. This is evidenced by the county losing a lot of good attorneys in recent years. What will you do to fix this problem so that the taxpayers do not pay to train new attorneys just to watch them leave and go elsewhere?
Well, I'll be bringing in a whole new attitude to the Sutter County District Attorney's office. My experience in 2 other well-run DA's offices will enable me to bring the best of both of those offices and combine them with what does work well in Sutter County. My experience in training people will also help, because a lot of the employees there, although they've received training, they have told me that they have not received the training that they feel is necessary or accurate for them to do their jobs comfortably. I am a uniter, not a divider, and the fact that I have never worked in that office will help me go in and make a complete impartial evaluation of everyone's skills and their strengths and their weaknesses. And that will enable me to work with everyone with an open mind, no preconceived ideas, and make it a much happier place to work so that we're not training people just so they can go elsewhere.
Amanda?
Thank you. Being a good attorney is important to becoming the district attorney. Being a good leader is vital. And being a good leader requires the ability to motivate, uplift, and encourage the people that you work with. It requires the knowledge that you're only as good as the office as a whole, and that includes every single person. Every person needs to know that they're valued, that they're part of the whole, and that their behavior must be as above reproach as your own. That includes integrity, that includes dedication, and that includes the motivation that I have, as this is my home, and truthfully, that is my home office. I am motivated to make it not just better, but the best it can possibly be, to be a place where we restore the good reputation of the Sutter County District Attorney's Office. And we can do that. We're going to do it.
Okay, Jennifer, anything to add?
Just very briefly, when I was a paralegal, I led a team of about 20 case assistants and paralegals, and those personalities did not always mesh, and it was my responsibility to keep them getting along and moving forward with the task at hand. So I do have the experience in, as I said, uniting people and not letting divisions stand.
Okay, Amanda, retired District Attorney Carl Adams did not spend much time in the courtroom in the last few years of his career. Yuba County District Attorney McGrath, on the other hand, is known for being very involved in the courtroom. What's your style? How involved will you be in the courtroom itself?
Administration is important. Leading the office is important, but you can't lead the office if you don't do the same job as what they're doing. It's important that the district attorney actually be an attorney, because the people in that office need to be able to go to their boss and say, hey, this is my issue. So I absolutely love being in trial. I went into criminal law because I love being in court. I'm a litigator, and I want to be in court. I also want to be in the office, so the time will be split. You'll have priorities, you're going to have motivation where you're most effective. But the next district attorney of Sutter County is going to be both an attorney and a leader.
Jennifer?
I've been fortunate that both of the district attorneys that I've worked under do believe in keeping their hand in and keeping their skills up, and so they do both remain in the courtroom. Initially, it's going to take a lot of work to get the Sutter County District Attorney's Office on track. So initially, I do not anticipate being able to spend the time in the courtroom that I would like to. Ultimately, yes, I will be in the courtroom at a minimum handling calendars, which is what Mr. McGrath in Yuba County does. Ideally, in a perfect world, I would also be able to handle trials. So I look forward to that. But this is going to be a 60 to 80 hour a week job. All the district attorneys that I've observed or communicated with all say the same thing. It's going to be 60 to 80 hours. And I want part of that time to be in the courtroom so I can remain in touch and see exactly what my deputies are going through and the challenges they face in the courtroom, both with judges, probation officers, and defendants, so that I can remain in touch and lead effectively.
Amanda, any further comment?
No, thanks.
Okay, Jennifer, how do you plan on using the grand jury? And when would you use it and why?
I think the best use of the grand jury, from my experience again in Yuba and Butte counties, is for the cases that are highly sensitive. When you use a grand jury for an indictment, you don't go through the initial stages that you do in a normal case. So you don't file a complaint and go through the preliminary examination stage. So I think that the grand jury is best used from the criminal side on the most sensitive cases, so that we are really emphasizing impartiality and a lack of bias, especially when we're dealing with high-profile cases.
The grand jury needs to be kept separate between criminal and civil. There's strict requirements for our grand juries so that they meet their goals, and there needs to be an impaneled criminal grand jury. I can't speak to what the civil grand jury does. And it can be the same group of people, it just needs to meet their own requirements. Several counties, for example, some of the nearby counties have 2 separate grand juries, or we can have one, but as long as they're completely unbiased and meet the criminal requirements. They can be used for sensitive cases. Grand juries do go through the same phase as the criminal preliminary hearing. It's just called something different, and it has different rules. So it can be used for sensitive cases. It can be used for cases where the defendant doesn't need to be there. That's one of the things people don't know about grand juries. It's very selective about who's there. I've taken many cases to the grand jury, and it's a great and useful tool when it's used incredibly impartial and appropriately.
Jennifer, anything to add?
No, thank you.
Staying on the topic of grand juries, a number of years ago, several counties joined together to provide training to new grand jurors. That practice was subsequently changed so the district attorney provided the training. What is your position, Amanda, regarding the training of grand jury members?
The grand jury needs to be guided, and now mainly speaking to the criminal grand jury, but it also is applicable to civil. The grand jury should seek guidance and counsel from 3 places according to code. That's county council, that's the district attorney, and the courts. Now, the district attorney needs to be available to answer questions and to make sure that the grand jury understands the criminal process and the law. As far as the grand jury being trained on what their job is, there's several people in the area who are working on combining trainings with other counties and bringing that back to Sutter County, and that's something that needs to happen because our grand jurors volunteer their time and their efforts, and some put an incredible amount of hours into it, and they need to be able to know what their rights are, and that's separate from the people that they may or may not be working, so that they have their own purpose, their own goal, and it's not infringed upon by the people who may be training them.
Jennifer?
I believe that the grand jury would be well served being trained with other counties. First of all, it saves cost for all of the counties. It gives a variety of points of view, and the district attorney, by remaining more aloof and a little bit separated and not running the training, does preserve the impartiality of the grand jury, which is necessary for them to do their job as they've been instructed to do. So I think that the multi-county training is an excellent idea, and I would like to see that return.
Any further comment, Amanda?
Okay, next question is for Jennifer. How are some ways you plan on strengthening the relationships between the district attorney's office and various local law enforcement agencies?
Communication is key. We have law enforcement that is out there doing an excellent job, and they are not being adequately supported by the district attorney's office. Part of that is training on the part of the district attorney, so that the deputies have a better realistic view of how to evaluate cases, so they're not declining cases that are absolutely perfectly prosecutable, so that law enforcement doesn't feel that their time is wasted. At the same time, we would need to work with law enforcement so that they know exactly what the district attorney's office needs to successfully prosecute a crime, so that they are getting us that information. So communication really is the key, and working together as a team, because while we are separate entities, we are a team when it comes down to prosecuting cases. And that's what we're going to be working as when I'm elected, because it is the only way to keep our community safe.
There's several steps I'm going to take to improve that relationship. First, it's important that the DAs and law enforcement both understand their role as justice partners and their role in the court system. In order to do that, you do need improved communication. Some of the ways to make that happen include some of the things that I've talked to many of our local law enforcement agencies about. We need to have DAs going on ride-alongs regularly. We need to have DAs attending their briefings every shift and talking to the attorneys, telling them what it is that they need from them and asking what they need from the DAs. We need to have them exchanging their phone numbers, which most of the time they do. They need to be preparing before you have witnesses or before you have law enforcement come in to testify. Those are some of the easy ways to make a better relationship. You also need to be able to discuss your cases. And before you make a decision to reject a case, you talk to your cop and you tell them, hey, this is what I need from you. If you get it to me, we can talk about filing. Hey, this is what's not going to happen. Your case isn't going to go, but this is what we can do in the future to do it better. When you have that, your relationship improves.
Okay. Next question is for Jennifer. From an operational and cohesive working environment aspect, how would the district attorney's office change in the next year under your leadership?
You said from an operational and cohesive point of view?
That's correct.
One of the first things I will do is, as I stated before, is the impartial evaluation of everyone's strengths and weaknesses. That's going to involve meeting with every employee in the district attorney's office, finding out what they like, what they don't like, so that we can make sure that people are in roles and doing things that they do like to the extent possible. One of the most important things is I intend to implement full vertical prosecution. That is when a prosecutor handles a case from the time it comes into the office, they make the filing decision all the way through trial. That gives accountability, that gives the prosecutor the sense of responsibility for the case. It enables law enforcement to know who to contact on every single case, and it's just going to streamline the process so much. We're not going to be filing bad cases because someone's going to say, oh, well, I can file this, it's not a good case, I'm not going to have to deal with it. They are going to have to deal with it. It's going to be theirs from start to finish. So that alone is going to help minimize the cases that are filed that really shouldn't be because they're not provable beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay, thank you. Amanda?
The district attorney's job boils down to one thing, and that's to do justice. And everyone in that office needs to know what their #1 job is, because everything they do, every different aspect of their job requires justice, and that's it. That's what they're there for. And every attorney in that office needs to have the ability and the judgment and the knowledge to read every single case, to gauge the merits of every single case, and know what justice requires in every case. And that requires training. That really requires communication, because when you are communicating with your justice partners, with witnesses, with victims, with other attorneys, with people that you need to go to for advice, when you're running your case past people, then your communication equals preparation. And your preparation must equal your result, which is justice. When everyone in the DA's office knows that and is willing to put that work into it and has a leader that requires it, then the office is going to be cohesive, united, ethical, and successful.
Jennifer, do you have anything to add?
Okay, Amanda, California is still coming to terms with AB 109, the Public Safety Realignment Bill. What do you believe will be the long-term impact of the changes brought about by the law? And if elected district attorney, how would you see your role in the continued implementation of this legislation?
There are so many long-term impacts that AB 109 potentially could bring about. Obviously, overcrowding is the big one that everybody knows about. Funding is a huge one. There is funding that's been allotted to the counties and to different agencies. However, one of the things that AB 109 didn't entertain was the increased medical expenses in the jail and mental health expenses, because what you have is you have a lot of defendants who would traditionally be a state inmate back here, and so we're paying for that. So we don't have the funding for that. That's a long-term problem. Some of the other things that need to happen along with AB 109 is, like I mentioned, there's been some funding that's been sent to the county that's not being maximized. There have been programs, policies, and procedures that are being implemented by our probation department to comply with the law, and when we work with them, when we work within what we're given, we can maximize what AB 109 does to us, because it very much inhibits the prosecution and it makes it difficult. But when we do actually stick with the law, because it's the law until it changes, then we can have better results.
Jennifer?
The obvious long-term effect, the most obvious long-term effect of AB 109 is the overcrowding and the return of offenders to our community. So working with probation and working with the sheriff's department, specifically the jail division, is going to be paramount going forward. We need to make sure that we are all on the same page, working together to ensure that the most dangerous criminals remain in custody and are not released on alternative programs. We need to ensure that we have all of the paperwork set up right so that when people are released from the jail, even though they remain in prison custody, when they take off their ankle monitor or go someplace they're not supposed to, that we are able to charge and effectively prosecute them for escape, and that will send them to state prison. So as long as we are knowledgeable, know what offenses will send someone to state prison, and aggressively prosecute those offenses, we will be able to stay ahead of AB 109.
Anything further?
Yes, when I was the president of the Yuba City Bar Association, as a Sutter County attorney, I was allowed to participate in the Yuba County regular staffing meetings that they hold through the court system, and that includes the courts, the DA's office, the Sheriff's Department, probation, and a few other agencies. They met regularly to discuss things like implementing new laws like AB 109, and it was a fluid process, and they tried what worked, and then they changed it, and they were on the same page, and they were able to address the needs that came about from this law and some of the others as they went. And that's a policy that I would like to bring to Sutter County. I've talked to several of those agencies so that we can better work within the new law and better serve our community.
Okay, the next question for Jennifer. What are your 3 strongest traits as a candidate for this position? And what are 2 areas you would identify as areas that you need to improve on?
My 3 strongest traits are my experience, since I have been a prosecutor for 10 years. That is a strength. One of my other strengths is the fact that I have worked in 2 separate district attorney's offices. I don't know just one way of doing things. I'm able to bring in the ideas from the 2 offices I have worked in and combine them with what does work well in the Sutter County District Attorney's office. I also think that my training is one of my biggest strengths, and my ability to train. I am already trusted to train for the California District Attorneys Association, so I already train prosecutors on a statewide level. I'll be able to bring that to the District Attorney's office. I also train law enforcement on things such as domestic violence and search warrants. In terms of my biggest weaknesses, I have never handled a $3.1 million budget, so that will take some getting used to. And just the civil procedures of running a county agency. I freely admit I have never run a county agency before.
Okay, Amanda?
My 3 character traits that I would probably focus on are integrity. My integrity's never been questioned. It is absolute and my biggest priority. Courage. I'm strong and brave enough to stand up for what I believe in, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm talking to you guys, and that's why I'm running for this position. And dedication. I'm willing to put the work where it needs to go. I'm willing to give back as much as it needs to be and make sure that we have the change for this county that we need. I too, like Jen, have never run a county agency. I've never balanced a budget of that magnitude. I balance a budget for 7 people in my household and my law practice. But this would be something different, and while I see that as something new, I also see it as something exciting and challenging.
Okay, Jennifer, anything to add?
Only that I'm looking forward to the challenge as well.
Amanda, the Sutter County Victim Witness Program operates under the DA's office with something like 1.5 employees. Meanwhile, Yuba County Victim Witness has 10 employees. Do you feel that Sutter County DA's office is properly cared for victims? If not, what would you change?
In my experience of over 10 years working in the Sutter County criminal justice system, our victims have not been properly cared for. Their needs have not been met, and they are not receiving the services that they should be receiving. Yuba County, their victim witness department is under the probation department, and they have figured out how to do their job in an absolutely incredible way, and they work very well for their victims, and they're aware of what services are out there. Our victim witness office has suffered for many years, and our victims have suffered. Should the victim witness office stay under the DA's office umbrella, they need to have employees who are actually trained, not better trained, but trained. They need to have employees who know exactly what services they can give to their victims, and they need to be able to communicate better. They also need to have a leader who requires that that happen. I prefer, however, that the victim witness not be under the DA's office's umbrella. It's been kept there for many years as a source of receiving grant money, and I would rather have our victims served than worry about that budget issue.
Jennifer?
The Sutter County Victim Witness Program does not serve the Sutter County victims and witnesses of crime. I have been saying this since the day I decided to run for district attorney. It absolutely needs to change. I don't care if it's under the auspices of the district attorney's office or the probation office. I have seen it done both ways. In Butte County, it's under the district attorney's office. In Yuba, it's under the probation department. I don't care who runs it, I just care that it's effective. I have spoken to folks in victim witness here in Sutter County, and they want to be trained. They haven't been trained, and for a decade, we have not been serving our victims and our witnesses of crime. So training will be of utmost importance, expanding the program so that we have the people that we need to help our victims and our witnesses of crime is just going to be the most important thing. teaming up with folks from Butte or Yuba County Victim Witness, as the folks in Sutter County really learn the ins and outs of their job, is going to be essential.
Anything further?
Just that it's been longer than a decade. Back when I was a social worker 17 years ago, I was fighting that battle.
Okay, Jennifer? Both of you indicated less budget experience, with a couple of questions back, than you would prefer. Have you looked at the DA's budget for this office? And if you have or have not, how adequate is the funding for the Sutter County District Attorney's office? Where is it lacking? How does the DA's office get more funding?
I have looked at the budget. I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to misspeak by talking about specifics about where it is not adequate. Obviously, no one ever thinks their budget is adequate. One of the ways to increase funding is to demonstrate to the Board of Supervisors exactly why we need more money. For example, keeping track of how much unpaid overtime is worked by prosecutors is an effective way, and I've seen it work in multiple counties, to convince the Board of Supervisors to approve additional positions and also, therefore, additional budget. One of the things that I've been saying I would like to see done is when I'm in that office, one of the first things I want is for Nate Black to do a mini audit of the District Attorney's office so I can see exactly where we're being wasteful, where we're not. As to whether or not it's adequate with what we have now, I am confident that we are able to protect the citizens of Sutter County, but obviously we will need to increase, I believe, our manpower as we go forward and become even more aggressive, or actually become aggressive in prosecuting the crimes here in Sutter County.
Amanda?
Thank you. I have looked at the budget and attended the budget hearings. There are many places where budget could be increased in the district attorney's office. Like any county or government agency, they're facing both budget tightening and budget cuts, and that's something that we just need to work within. It would be great to say we're going to get more money, but I don't see that happening, particularly where in Sutter County our Board of Supervisors have historically been willing to give the district attorney's office money that maybe they should not have. I think it's time to earn it. I think it's time to work within our budget, and I think it's time to prove that we are able to do the job that we're being asked to do. Like I said, it'd be great to have more. I know staffing is an issue. In fact, one of the things that Sutter County has for a very long time suffered with is that while they are able to bring in new and younger and less experienced attorneys, keeping them is sometimes difficult when comparable attorneys are getting higher pay rates and promotions because they have more budget. That would be great, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. I see us working within our budget successfully.
Jennifer, do you have anything to add?
Just that while it's always better to have better paid deputy district attorneys, Sutter County is actually, does actually pay fairly well for district attorneys in this area. And so we cannot blame the loss of experienced prosecutors on what they're paid.
Amanda, the prosecution of gang-related violence in Sutter County has been a major issue. Some feel that there's a lack of coordination between the DA's office and law enforcement, and that has actually led to an escalation of gang violence and death in Sutter County. They feel the DA's office could have been more effective at prosecuting gang members to the fullest extent of the law. In fact, I was hearing today, just to add to this public question, that Sutter County Court dismissed a case involving a gang-related shooting in Live Oak today. So how do you feel about this? Do you agree, and what would you change?
I absolutely agree. Give a little bit of background, and I'm going to talk fast because I'm short on time. But when the gang task force was created, it's a bi-county task force that includes law enforcement officers from both Sutter and Yuba counties. You talk to gang officers, you talk to gang prosecutors, and you're going to find out what I know, and that's that Sutter County officers are going to Yuba County as much as possible to conduct their surveillances and their investigations because they think they're going to get a better result in the Yuba County court system. You also find out that Yuba County gang members are coming to Sutter County to commit their crimes. because of the same reason. They're going to get off easier. That's what they're saying. I've spoken with the Yuba County gang prosecutors who've been handling gang crimes for a very long time, very successfully. And when I'm elected, we are interested and planning to implement a bi-county gang prosecution team so that the people in Sutter County can benefit from their experience, their information, their databases of prior crimes and predicates, and so that we can improve the gang prosecution uniformly so that our prosecutors can do the same thing that they're doing, and we can share information better, just like our cops are doing successfully.
Jennifer?
Sutter County needs its own gang prosecutors. The gang crimes are increasing. In part, I'll blame Butte County because they are creatively and effectively prosecuting gang members, making it too uncomfortable for them to stay in Butte County. They're moving from Gridley to Live Oak. That's not acceptable. They need to leave Sutter County. I don't care if they go back to Butte, Yuba, Sacramento, Colusa, wherever. They're not welcome in Sutter County. So we need to have our own prosecutors fully trained to prosecute gang members. Working with gang prosecutors from other counties is a great idea, but when someone from Yuba County is tied up in a gang trial and Sutter County needs to take someone to trial because they're not waiving time and they're in custody, if we don't have our own very well trained creative prosecutors, we're in trouble, because it is not acceptable to have a gang case dismissed if it's accurately filed as a gang case, and that will not happen.
Anything further, Amanda?
Just that Live Oak's been a hotbed of gang activity for a very long time. It's nothing new, and it's something that our gang cops are constantly working on. Having a bi-county gang prosecution team doesn't mean we bring other attorneys in to do our job. It means we communicate, we cross-train, we share information, expertise, knowledge, and effectiveness so that our prosecutors are great, because we have that potential in this county, and we're going to make that happen.
Okay. Jennifer, as district attorney, you would have prosecutorial discretion on how you address defendants, their alleged crimes, and taking them through the criminal process. Please give us an example of how you would use that discretion as the DA in a hypothetical case.
And you're not giving me the hypothetical case? Well, this is where the training comes in, and also where experience comes in. Our job is to do justice. It is not to get convictions. So while there are occasions where it might be accurate to file charges on someone, that's not what doing justice is. For example, I had a vehicular manslaughter case come across my desk. A gentleman was driving, his wife was in the passenger seat. For whatever reason, he drove off the road and hit a tree. That was a violation of the vehicle code, and it came in with a request for vehicular manslaughter. This gentleman had killed his wife, not intentionally, but through inadvertence. It was not justice to charge that man with vehicular manslaughter. And that is where training and experience are paramount, to know how to evaluate a case, to know what doing justice is, and have the courage, the ethics, and the integrity to follow through. Simple.
Amanda?
Now, just to be clear, the district attorney's office doesn't get to address the defendant or take them through the criminal court process. That's why defense attorneys are required, and that's kind of the way it works in our country. In fact, the DA doesn't actually even get to talk to the defendants. That's what their own attorneys are for. I'm actually very grateful for my experience both as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney, because it gives me a dual perspective and a broader experience of understanding how to analyze cases and the people who commit crimes. Having said that, hypothetically speaking, as a prosecutor, to bring a defendant through the court system, the first thing the prosecutor must absolutely do is understand the case. That means what happened. That means who the witnesses are. That means who the victim is, what the actual crimes committed are. They have to have the knowledge to evaluate that. And then they have to understand the court process and go through it. And as I said before, they have to know what justice requires. And then you either fight. You fight so hard you're willing to lose, and show that you fought, because there are some cases that is worth fighting all the way knowing you're going to lose because you gave that person their experience. They know that they had a chance and somebody fought for them. And there's some cases that it's worth plea bargaining for, but you have to know the difference.
Jennifer, anything to add?
Just very briefly, excuse me, to address the addressing the defendant portion of it. Even when someone is a defendant in a criminal case, they are innocent until proven guilty. They need to be treated as such and still treated with respect. And that's what I intend to do.
Amanda, agriculture is the #1 industry in Sutter County. And how has the Sutter County DA's office performed in prosecuting agriculture-related crimes, such as felony theft of farm equipment? And is there more that the DA's office can do?
Ag crimes are an area that our district attorney's office has frequently failed in their job. And that stems from them not understanding ag crimes and not understanding their role in it. In Sutter County last year, the agriculture economy returned over $3 billion to our community and our economic development. Our district attorneys don't really understand the impact of ag crimes unless they're given the opportunity to talk to everybody involved. That's where I say you got to talk to the witnesses. But more important, you have to understand the impact on our community. So a great example that I can just give briefly is a lot of times you'll see, say, a pump that's been vandalized for $80 worth of copper wire and then it's taken down to the recycling industry. And you charge that person for the vandalism and the $80 worth of copper wire, without talking to the farmer who's then going to tell you that pump costs $5,000 to replace, that they have stolen product, that they have wages that they have to pay for workers who aren't working until that pump gets replaced. It's only when you are able to understand the full crime and its impact that you can better serve ag.
Jennifer?
Ag crime has not been adequately addressed by the Sutter County District Attorney's Office. And this is another area where victim witness can be helpful. If victim witness can act as a liaison with the victims and the witnesses of ag crime, it will enable the prosecutor's office to have a complete picture of exactly what is going on. We also need to keep in mind that even if there is what's considered a minor theft that would be a misdemeanor, 3 convictions with at least a book and release, which counts as 1 day of jail time, 3 of those, the 4th one becomes a felony. And it's making you more effective. So sometimes you really just need to build a book to be able to start really making an impact. We need to work with the enforcement of the recycling laws and the waiting periods, but absolutely we need to get tough on ag crime, whether it's crop theft, equipment theft, vandalism of the land, whatever. It is our #1 industry, and when it succeeds, we succeed. And we need to follow through and do what we should be doing and should have been doing for years.
Anything further, Amanda?
Just to take it a step further, our local farmers and our law enforcement officers need to know that the Sutter County District Attorney's Office is going to prosecute these crimes and that they're going to follow through on their efforts. Right now, they don't know that. They're going to tell you the way they've told me that they don't believe that that's going to happen. The only way to return that confidence so that they work with us is to successfully and more passionately prosecute ag crimes.
Okay, thank you. One more question.
Okay, so Jennifer, you'll start with this one. As I'm sitting here listening to the two of you, your answers, some of them are very similar. And so my question comes that you guys you've heard each other talk on various events, probably many of them. So my question is, what do you feel is the strongest difference between you and your opponent?
Simple, my experience. I have 10 years of prosecution experience. I've been an attorney for 17 years. I have worked in 2 well-run district attorney's offices, so like I said, I don't just know the Sutter County way of doing things. I'm able to bring in my experiences from the other offices, combine them with Sutter County. I have no ties to the Sutter County DA's office, so I can be impartial and really give us the fresh start that we need. I'm able to do the training myself or bring in other CDAA attorneys who do training for CDAA, who have volunteered to come in and do training to help save the Sutter County District Attorney's Office money. And I have management experience both as a paralegal and when I was an adjunct professor at the University of San Francisco School of Law, where I started and ran a law clinic that was made up at any given semester of between 10 and 14 law students. It was essentially a small law firm. So it boils down to experience.
Okay, Amanda?
Thank you. I think being a good attorney is important, and I've said that before. And quite frankly, I think Jen is a fighter when she gets into court. I've seen it, and that's a great quality. But the district attorney needs to be the leader who can get in there and manage the people and motivate the people. And I have personal skills. I have the ability to work with people and to get them in there and doing the job. I've been training, I've been leading, I've been doing it mostly my entire life. But as an adult, when I was fairly young, in my early 20s, I ran an office in college of over 60 employees. I hired, I fired, I trained, I did it all. When I was in law school, I ran the mediation program for both the law school and the undergraduate program. I taught, I trained, I managed the employees, and I taught all the students. Really soon after I became an attorney, which I've been a criminal attorney in Sutter County for over 10 years, I was given the opportunity and the responsibility of training and supervising other attorneys. I've taught out at our police academy. I've been a guest professor at the Yuba College. I've been asked to speak to every law enforcement agency in our community. I have the ability to lead people.
Thank you very much. And before we get into our closing statements tonight, I'd like to thank all of you for being here. Many of you have been to all of our forums. We appreciate that very much. I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Yuba City Chamber of Commerce, the Appeal Democrat, KUBA Radio. I'd like to thank the moderators we've had, and we've had some very good moderators for these sessions. Also thank all of the volunteers that make this all possible. So with that said, our closing statements will start with Amanda Hopper. You have up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Again, thank you for being here, and thank you to the Appeal and the Chamber for hosting this forum. Again, November 4th is only 3 weeks away, and we are all getting ready for it, and it's so important that you educate yourself. So I'm glad you're doing that. Please continue to do so. I think that really the one thing I want to leave with you is my commitment to Sutter County and my commitment to justice. This is my home. This is where I raise my children. This is where my husband and I met when he was stationed at Beale Air Force Base. This is where he serves, and I should have mentioned before, I appreciate his support. He's a Yuba County Sheriff's Deputy. My parents are both here as well. My mom's a local therapist. My dad is the Assistant District Attorney in Yuba County. I have been raised in a home and an environment and in a community where you give back, where you are taught and given strengths and given tools to make your place better. So that's why I'm here. We are going to make Sutter County better. Sutter County needs and deserves a district attorney's office that will prosecute and execute justice with vitality, with passion, and absolute integrity. I have that ability. I have that integrity, and I will make that happen in Sutter County.
Jennifer?
As I said in the last question, it really boils down to experience. You can have a well-run DA's office, but if you don't have prosecutors that know what they're doing and know what the right thing to do is, you're going to be in the same trouble we're already in. So experience is key. I have the experience. I have received the endorsement of the law enforcement agencies that I work with on a daily basis. I've received the endorsement of the 2 law enforcement agencies that have worked with both candidates. I am trusted by them to bring justice back to Sutter County. My reputation is that I am tough, that I am fair, and that is what Sutter County needs. We need someone with integrity, ethics, and experience. And I don't just talk about ethics and integrity, I put it into practice. And that is evidenced by the questionnaire that I could not ethically, in my opinion, fill out. So you have already seen that I am sticking to my guns regardless of the personal flack that I am receiving from a large number of people who feel that I'm hiding things. I'm not hiding anything. I am living up to the professional ethics expected of this office. and I'm starting now because our community deserves it and we deserve to be kept safe, and that is what I intend to do. Thank you very much for all of you for being here, and again, I want to thank the sponsors as well, the Appeal Democrat, the Chamber of Commerce, and KUBA. Thank you very much, and thank you to our moderator.